So the earlier in the deal that you can become, quote, multi-threaded, the better. And the reality is that a champion may not always want to bring in other people into the deal until they personally are convinced and sold that, okay, this is not only something that's worth bringing others into because it's a big problem, but two, you're somebody who can help me. So again, the earlier you can multi-thread in the deal, the easier it's going to be to help drive some of that alignment and consensus across everybody. But you kind of run into the tension between, look, if I don't think this is worth my, call it VP of marketing's time, then it's going to be very difficult to get that VP engaged without either going over my head as, call it the marketing manager, the marketing director, or otherwise going about it in a process that may be not as ideal as it could be, or not as relational as it could be.
Yeah, and I think, so let's dive into the how do we create the champions, because the language that you use, depending on where you are in the organization, the language that you use with those other people within the buyers group is going to depend whether or not they're going to talk to you, right? We had an old saying that you're going to get pushed down to the level that you sound. So if you sound like a user, you're going to end up talking to the users. If you're speaking strategically and, the metrics that they are using, their success metrics or OKRs or KPIs, whatever we want to call it, right? If we're speaking to that in business language, then that's going to allow us to get up in those C-suites a little bit more. So let's talk about the create. How do we go about creating these champions so that they will help us and walk us into these offices, if you will?
Yeah. So I love that saying, by the way, this idea of you get pushed down to the level that you sound. I also think that you can be pushed up to the level that you sound.
Absolutely.
And so going back to your question around how do we work with these champions in order to engage others and, quote, get multi-threaded in the deal, is one practice that I would highly recommend people think about is this idea of writing forwardable emails. And the idea of a forwardable email is pretty simple. It's that you're not writing to the person that you are sending to in the sender field, but who you want them to send it to. So if I'm writing to the marketing manager, but I want the email to reach the CMO, I'm going to write in a way that speaks to that CMO's goal. And so the idea is, one, you have to open up with a larger company-wide objective or outcome that affects everybody and up at that executive leadership level. Two, you have to start including some of that language that you were identifying throughout discovery, a problem statement and a trigger phrase that's going to be familiar to leadership because they're already talking maybe up at a board level or in an executive meeting. In the case of a CMO, it might be the mission to reduce customer acquisition costs.